Hey, I'm Steve Rhode, the old Get Out of Debt guy, and I'm here, as always, with the new Get Out of Debt guy, Damon Day. Say hello, Damon.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Did- Have you not had caffeine?
I've had 3 or 4 sips.
Okay,
It hasn't
well,
kicked in yet, though.
start chugging it down. I'll be with you in just a minute.
Do I sound like Eeyore? Is that what you're saying?
You sound like you were in bed. That's what I'm saying.
Well, 15 minutes ago I was until you rudely woke me up for this podcast.
Hey, how you doing?
Everything's fine.
Okay. Today we're tackling a question that's probably kept a lot of people awake at night. I know one point in my life I felt this too. What happens if I stop paying my credit cards or personal loans? Can I go to jail? Well, the fear of legal trouble is one of the biggest drivers of financial anxiety and mess creation. Just recently, someone online shared about how maxing out their credit cards and a personal loan left them terrified that prison was next. It's a real worry when collectors are aggressive, judgments make the news, scammers are calling you, pretending to be law enforcement or government officers. So let's clear it up. Let's separate fact from fiction and talk about what really happens if you can't pay. Damon,
Steve,
you got a burning thought you want to get off your mind first on this?
yeah, I mean, for the most, I think I could start us off with a doozy. So I've got a friend of mine who's an ex-Marine, and he has a saying, right? And hang with me on this because I will circle it around.
Okay.
And he has a saying that he'll bust out every once in a while. And he says, hey, sometimes you got to shoot a hostage.
Okay.
And the first time, stay with me, Steve. And the first time he said that, I went, what? What do you mean? And he was like, no, sometimes, you're in a situation and there are no good options.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to shoot a hostage to save the rest of them. And so he'll say that once in a while. And what we're going to be talking about today, you mentioned, what happens if you don't pay? Well, for the most part, the worst thing that happens usually is you take a hit to your credit score.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what most people do is that's the one thing they're afraid of. Like nobody wants to shoot a hostage, right? That's a bad choice. They don't want to do it. They want to protect their credit score. So they do everything they can to keep paying and keep paying and keep paying and protect that credit score. And unfortunately, what ends up happening a lot of times is all that does by not shooting that hostage, right? By continuing to pay because you don't want to make that tough choice, you end up potentially losing your house, potentially losing your car,
your retirement,
potentially losing your retirement, your marriage, because your family goes through this financial turmoil because you finally just get to the point where you lose everything and you end up shooting the hostage anyway, because as you fall behind on this stuff, eventually
it catches up.
You end up tanking your credit score. So when we're talking about this stuff today, the credit score is the hostage. Sometimes you have to shoot the hostage in order to save everybody else.
Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, while people are really focused on the credit score, it's one of the least important things in the long run, because what I have observed over the decades of helping people is it's not the credit score that really takes the most damage. It's your mental health. It's your approach on life, your lack to take advantage of opportunities that are headed your way. As you mentioned, the destruction of a relationship. Because, surveys show us that debt-related anxiety is one of the leading mental health burdens worldwide. Now, I've run debt organizations in the United States and also in South Africa and Europe, England, and Netherlands, and it is universal among every human on this planet, this fear and anxiety that people have, which I think it's this guy, A.L. Williams, used to have this pitch on selling insurance, but he used to have a saying that it's just stinking thinking, right? It's it's not thinking clearly, not knowing what to think, that helps people to feel this way. And I remember when I went through my bankruptcy in 1990. One of the things we actually, had to go to. Uh, it wasn't necessarily a courthouse, but it was an administrative meeting, and there's a bunch of people that are having their bankruptcy hearings that day. And a person in front of me got up, sat down at the table with their lawyer, and started crying because they were afraid that Sears was going to take their hair dryer and their old mattress. And I remember the attorney turning to them and going, trust me, they don't want that.
Yeah.
And so people are afraid of a lot of things, and it leads to bad decisions. Now, one of the things that I have dealt with both in Europe and here, I don't know why, but my website, getoutofdebt.org, has attracted a lot of people who still live in countries where you can go to jail. That's not America. So if you're in
Yeah.
America and you're afraid of going to jail over your debts, you're about 225 years too late.
You were born at the wrong time.
Yeah. I mean, there were times in American history where a debtor's prison did exist, but that went away in the 1800s. I think one of the people that I've read a lot about, and I have actually collected things from his life, was the guy who was the father of the American Revolution, who helped finance it. He arranged the financing, and his name was Robert Morris. And in fact, there's a college in Philadelphia named after him. And in fact, a friend of ours named Chad graduated from that school.
Fun fact.
Fun fact. But Robert Morris went from success to failure and wound up in debtor's prison back then. Here he was. His name is actually on the Constitution. He's one of the signers. And he ended up later in debtor's prison, ironically, primarily through real estate failures.
Noticing a theme?
Right. He was one of the founders of the American Land Company. And one of the things I have in my collection, side tangent, is a stock certificate signed by Benjamin Franklin's son for shares in the American Land Company. But
cool.
All right. Anyway, so I don't know. I've tried my entire career to help people to understand this is misfortune. This is not fraud, right? You're going through an event that you didn't set yourself up for. That doesn't make you a criminal.
Yeah. Yeah. Today this podcast is just focused on, and it's something I get every day, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
It's the misconceptions on what actually happens if you can't make your payments, right? And why people just hold on so long to that, I got to make my payments. Well, what really happens if you can't make those payments? And as Steve said, it should be very clear. Don't worry. Jail is off the list. So we can move on from that.
Right.
And unless you're in the UAE.
Right. Right.
And then you'll have all the Bentleys and the Rolls Royces all parked at the airport and abandoned.
It's funny you mentioned that because there are a lot of expats that I've talked to over the years from both America and the UK who were working in the UAE and lost their jobs. And at the time, the best advice that they could hear was me saying, you need to leave your car at the airport. You need to get the hell out of the country.
Yeah.
Because the last thing you want to do is be thrown in a UAE debtor's prison where you've got no family, no income, or anything else. How are you going to get yourself out?
Yeah.
And so that's what they learned about debtor's prisons is they really don't work.
Yeah. Yeah. So you don't have to worry about going to jail. There is no jail if you can't afford to make your payments. In fact, one of the worst things that happens, like I said, is your credit score takes a hit. But the fear of that happening pales in comparison to not being able to make your mortgage payment and then potentially losing your house, losing your car, draining your savings, getting more personal loans, getting a 401k loan, trying to do everything you can to avoid shooting the hostage.
I like that analogy. That's a good one.
Sometimes you just got to shoot the hostage. And as horrific as it sounds, when I first heard
Yeah,
it,
that's true.
it made sense. It's like, well, you got 10 people being held hostage by a crazy person. And if shooting one of them can save the other 9, versus if you don't, they all die. What do? It's 2 impossible choices, but you have to make one.
It's funny because in my life as a search and rescue pilot, you're oftentimes faced with no good solution, right? You don't want to crash. You want to find so it all comes down to situational awareness, which also applies in this example, this situation, because you need to be situationally aware of what your best worst option is. It's exactly like shooting the hostage, right? You don't want to, kill yourself trying to save somebody. You need to make the best decision you can. So over the years, Damon, I don't think this has changed much, but over the years when people would confront me or ask me, am I going to go to jail? And I would go, no. People just weren't satisfied with that answer because they had this unfounded fear that was more powerful than the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that'll get rid of that fear is knowledge and a plan. If you know for sure what can happen if you take certain actions ahead of time, and then you plan for those actions, it makes shooting the hostage easier.
Yeah, based on what we both know, fear of your credit score taking a hit, it almost feels, tell me what you think, but knowing what we both know, it almost feels like a totally irrational fear because we both now know how easy it is to rebuild a good credit score afterwards.
Yeah. It's essentially a made up construct that we all bought into.
Yeah.
And that we all think we have to have this to survive, and we don't. And we all think that we have this. Everybody seems to have the notion in their head that if they do anything to their credit, they won't be able to get a new loan for 10 years. I don't know how that came about, but everybody has the same bad information. And I have to correct that all the time. It's like, oh, I don't want to wait 10 years before I can buy a house. It's like, who told you that?
Yeah, I bet it's going to be a debt settlement company or a credit counseling company, because that is a great tool to use to make somebody fearful of signing up.
Here's the problem with the system. If everybody knew how bullshit the credit score actually was,
Yep.
like it would be actually, people would have, how do I want to say this? They would be like, oh, I got to let my payments go because I'm over leveraged. I'm in over. Okay, fine. Like it wouldn't even be a second thought if they really understood how much of a non-issue for the most part the credit score really is, especially in the long term. It's when you start laying out everything that can happen when you get over leveraged and you can't afford to pay your bills, your credit score going down is like the easiest thing, right? Everything else is more difficult to deal with. But the one thing that's the thing that shouldn't matter at all is the thing that matters the most, it seems like, to people. I've had clients where we lay out everything and I'm like, if we go down this path, you could be in danger of losing your house in the next 60 to 90 days.
Yeah.
And yet still their big focus is, well, what's going to happen to my credit and how long is it going to take to rebuild? And it's like, it doesn't matter.
Right.
You're going to be homeless in 60 days. Who cares about your credit score right now? We can live to fight another day. Let's shoot the one hostage and save the other 9. And then we can do better moving forward. Let's not all just die here today.
I know. Another saying that I have in the military refrain is, it's always better to lose the battle and win the war.
I say that to clients all the time.
Yeah.
Especially if we're negotiating a deal and it's, maybe it's, we're shooting for 30 cents on the dollar, but we're, getting them down to 50 cents on the dollar, but I also got them to give us 24 months to pay the 50 cents or whatever. And I always tell clients, look, it's not about this one deal. It's about, what your situation is in winning the entire war, right? And I always tell clients too, look, I would rather pay a higher percentage settlement when you're in a position to afford it.
Yeah.
than a lower percentage when you don't have it. Like when, you're in decision-making mode all the time where you say, hey, I can potentially get 30 cents on the dollar on this account for you today, but it's a $10,000 account and the client doesn't have $3,000 and they're barely trying to build up their fund. And it's like, you know what, if we let this charge off, it's probably going to be more like 50, maybe even 60 cents, a year from now that we can negotiate it. You're going to end up paying more, but I would rather you pay more when you're at a point in your life
Right.
where you have the funds and have an emergency fund and all that than take everything you have right now and then fall behind on your mortgage trying to get this one deal. We're not trying to win this one battle. We're trying to win the entire war, like you said.
Yeah. And also it's prioritizing the correct debts. You just mentioned mortgage, which is great because the person that yells the least is generally, like the apartment complex or your mortgage company or something.
The one you have to watch out for.
Yeah, they don't yell loud because they know they got you by the short hairs.
Yeah.
So, stop being afraid of some credit card or debt collector and start getting your priorities right. Now, this is something that I think that the entire idea about misfortune versus fraud, people think, and when I say people think, this is based on my experience, my 30 years or whatever, talking to people who actually believe that when they fall behind on their Visa or MasterCard, that they're going to get arrested because I got a call, right? And they told me if I don't pay this, they're going to come to my house and they're going to arrest me. Or, a guy from the IRS called me and told me I need to pay a debt. I need to pay it now. But life is full of misfortune. It's full of things that you didn't plan to happen, but just happen, like natural disasters or job loss or whatever. If you suffer from one of those things, that is misfortune. If you sat down and committed credit fraud and identity theft and all sorts of, financial crime, that is a crime. That you can go to jail for because you're breaking the law. But when you lose your job, you're not breaking the law. When you get sick, you're not breaking the law.
Yeah. Or when you just get over leveraged, even if this is the most common.
Yeah.
Is not necessarily natural disaster, but the most common is, well, I was, people are overly optimistic when it comes to their ability to get themselves out of a bad spot. I'm not saying it can't happen, but after 25 years, you start to become a little bit, well, yeah, I see that there's a potential there for that business to take off, but,
But, yeah,
yeah. And so what happens is how most people get in these situations is thinking they're going to be able to get out of it next month or next month or next month. So if I just get this consolidation loan, I can take this and I can do that. If I just pull this money out of my 401k, I can do this and I can do that.
yeah,
And they just think, well, I'm going to get that new job next month, or I'm going to get that raise, or we're going to cut down our spending. And honestly, that is the biggest thing that gets people in trouble, is just thinking it's going to get better soon. And I will be. And the thing is, in their mind, they're doing the right thing, right? Like
yeah,
I want to pay all of this back. And that's the right thing. I want to pay all this back. I want to pay all this back. But so often doing the right thing instead of taking a step back and looking at the reality of the
right.
situation that we're in, doing the right thing just gets everybody killed,
Right.
right? We don't want to shoot the hostage because that's not right.
Yeah,
And
let's
then we
just
all end
massacre
up
everybody.
dying. Yeah, we all end up dying because we couldn't make that tough choice.
Yeah. Well, you've also got, this thing, as I just mentioned a minute ago, about the whole scammer thing that seems to be hot and heavy. Uh, there's no end to what scammers will text you, call you about, or send you an email about to scare you into paying money. Generally it's the caller pretends to be from law enforcement or the court. Some debt collectors do it, but not much anymore. They already say that they know your name, your address, your employer, where, we're going to come to get you this afternoon if you don't pay this immediately. And even if they ask for like prepaid gift cards,
Oh, God.
people fall for this. Your
Well,
sheriff's office is not going to ask you for a prepaid gift card.
Well, honestly, this scam stuff has actually got me very nervous, especially for the older population
Yeah.
that didn't grow up with technology or this kind of technology. And as it gets better and better and more sophisticated, where they're able to clone, loved ones' voices.
Yeah.
You see hear
Yeah.
about those scams too, and it's like it sounds like the granddaughter is calling her grandmother for, "Oh, I'm in Mexico and I'm in jail and I need 5,000," and but it's her granddaughter's voice. I mean,
It
it's
is.
crazy stuff,
Yeah.
but it's at the point where it's just like, if anybody asks you for anything, text, phone, whatever, just it's a scam. You almost have to operate your life like it's an absolute scam.
Yeah.
Even if it's your granddaughter calling from Mexico, you
Right.
need to hang up and call your son or daughter and ask where their daughter is,
Right.
and then get her on the phone directly rather than receive that call. I mean, it sucks, but we're at a point where these guys are so good, and especially when you're dealing with an elderly population that didn't have, and it's not even necessarily because they're old, it's just they don't understand this technology. Like, you call somebody right now, 80 years old, and you have their granddaughter's voice.
Right.
That person most likely doesn't even have the capacity for, that might not be my granddaughter,
Right.
right? They just don't even understand
Well,
the technology.
they're in a panic too.
Yeah, and it's crazy, but the best advice I can give is anybody calling, threatening IRS, collector, asking for any kind of money, assume, worst case scenario, you hang up the phone. You're not going to have the sheriff knock on your door and take you to jail,
No.
right? Most likely it's a scam and it's BS, and just hang up on it. If it's legit, you'll, not to say that a scammer can't send you a letter, but if it's a legit thing from the IRS or an actual debt that you owe or a court, they will send you a letter.
To start, yeah, to
You
start
know,
with.
yeah,
And even if, worst case scenario, Damon, even if a sheriff's deputy comes to the door to serve you with a lawsuit,
yeah,
still not going to jail.
yeah. Yeah, but you could take the physical letter that you get, and then you can have it reviewed by somebody
Yeah.
that knows what they're doing. What you want to go to an attorney, a bankruptcy attorney, send it to me, whatever. Somebody that is in this world can look at that for you, versus a phone call that scares you and they want you to do something right now. That's the surefire way of knowing that, wait a minute, if this guy wants me to do something right now, there's probably something off by this. They don't want me to have time to really figure out what this is. Always take a step back and figure it out. Don't ever rush through some kind of protocol that somebody on the phone is trying to give you. And like Steve said, especially if it involves freaking gift cards, Amazon cards, whatever,
Yeah.
go to Western Union right now. I'll stay on the phone with you while you drive over there.
Yeah, or go in your bank and withdraw money. I've seen that too. But before I forget, if you are concerned about this stuff and you want to talk to Damon, you can reach him through his website, damonday.com, DAMONDAY.com. And yeah, call him and talk it through, because I would much rather you be informed and knowledgeable than scared and making bad decisions. One of the reasons why this works so well is because shame is a powerful motivator. The reason the scammer and the debt collector and sometimes even the debt relief salesperson is trying to talk to you about shame is because it's the most powerful way to manipulate people to making uninformed bad choices.
Yeah. Yeah, and my favorite thing is, talking to clients and they say, "Oh, the debt collector called and they said I have to have this by Friday, or this or that," and then I go, "Or what?"
Yeah, right.
And they go, "What do you mean?" Well, or what? You have to have this by Friday, or they're not going to be able to help me. Okay, maybe we don't want their help, right? So
Right.
my favorite thing is to laugh, not to debt collectors' faces, but with clients where they're freaked out, and then I say, "Oh, they said what? Okay, well, this is what's really going on. This is why they said that.
Yeah.
This is why you don't have to worry about it. And actually, based on this, this, and this, the thing that they're threatening you with is actually a beneficial thing,
Right.
because it's going to leave their department, and then the next department, based on who you owe money to, we can probably get a better offer from. So the very thing that they're threatening you with and telling you, you must do this by Friday, is the very thing that we actually want to happen. So don't worry about it. Just go and chill and not stress. It's fine.
That's very funny because when the collector calls and says, if you don't take action and make a payment today, your account's going to charge off by Friday.
Perfect.
Yeah, I know. That is awesome. Hey, can we move that up?
Yeah. Let's just go ahead and take care of that right now.
Yeah, I'm not going to make a payment and you can just charge it off now. Let's go.
Yeah. 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 And once you get to the point where you've got a strategy and you have a plan, it's not fun, right? Shooting the hostage is never fun.
Right.
But when you understand what the outcome is going to be ahead of time, it makes it a lot easier to make those tough decisions and get the problem resolved. That's the overall goal, is let's take the bad stuff that you're in and let's just get out of that situation. Let's resolve it. And if it's going to be some tough decisions to do it, fine. Well, let's make those tough decisions, but let's understand the ramifications ahead of time, figure everything out and say, okay, fine. I don't really feel comfortable doing that, but I also feel even less comfortable with the ramifications that would happen if I don't do something. So let's just go ahead and implement that plan, get it done, get it behind you so we can start fresh and do better moving forward, as Steve always says.
So let's role play for a minute. I'll be the big spoon.
Where's your other hand?
Yeah.
Between two pillows.
Yeah. Are you happy to see me?
Those are pillows.
All right. So
trains and automobiles for those following along.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to play the role of the average person that we've talked to over the years. And then afterwards, I want you to decipher all of this for people and help them to understand what the reality is. So somebody naturally comes to you and says, I can't pay my bills. I'm behind. They're going to take my car. I'm going to get kicked out of my house. They're going to foreclose on me. And if I don't pay this by Tuesday, I'm going to have really, really bad credit. And I'm ashamed to tell my family what's going on. And I'm a disgrace to my kids. And I just keep getting passed over for promotions at work. They just tell me that, my head's just not into my job and I'm afraid of losing my job. And most importantly, I don't want to hurt my credit score. Damon, what should I do?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there, Steve. You really waited quite a while before you called me, but threw me in on that one. Well, the first thing, if I have a client that comes to me in that kind of a mess where they feel like they're a day away from losing everything, it's 100% circle the wagons time. Cash is king, right? We have to circle the wagons. We got to pool the resources, figure out what resources we even have. Now, obviously, the credit score is the least of my concerns, unless they're in a situation where, because here's the problem. If we have a cash crisis, which it sounds like we do, that is the thing that we have to fix first. And sometimes we might end up getting deeper into debt in order to right the ship from the cash flow perspective. Because I always use this as an analogy. When you have debt and you have cash flow, the two things are related, right? Negative cash flow and debt are related, but they're not the same thing. And the problem is most people fixate on, I have to fix my debt problem. I have to fix my debt problem, which is why they always get into bad situations like getting a personal loan, to consolidate, or money from the 401k and all that, because they're fixated on my debt. I got to lower my interest rate, fix my debt. No, you got to fix the negative cash flows. You were mentioning, you might be losing your job, or you're not making enough money or whatever. That's the negative cash flow. So if you get in a car accident and you've got a broken arm and you've got like an arterial neck wound and blood spurting out, and you're rushed to the ER and your arm is killing you. Doctor, my arm is killing me. Doctor doesn't even see your arm. He doesn't care about your arm because you're going to be dead in 15 minutes if he doesn't fix the neck wound, right? So the neck wound is that negative cash flow. That has to be addressed immediately. We cannot continue with negative cash flow. If you're out of credit and you're out of savings, you're out of time, right? We have to fix that cash flow. Now, the broken arm, that's the debt. It hurts like hell. We can see it. It's bad. It looks ugly, but we have time to set it. Once we fix the cash flow, then we can take a step back and say, wow, that compound fracture is pretty gnarly. but here's what we can do to fix that. And then we can fix the debt. So if a client came to me in that situation where, they were worried about their credit score, but they're also worried about, a couple payments behind on my house and my family and all this, we are going to zero in 100% on the cash flow. How do we balance that budget so where at least we're slowing down the bleed? And then if their credit is still good at that point, depending on how bad the situation is, sometimes we might put a strategy together where they borrow more money in the short term in order to buy us the time that we need. And I'm not saying, hey, if you're, about to lose everything, go borrow money. I'm saying as part of a plan,
Right.
we might need to do that to get out of that. And then depending on what the overall situation is, we would start looking at solutions once we figured out how to fix the cash flow. So the primary things that we're going to circle the wagons around, in many cases, it would be the house. But sometimes, hey, you can't afford this house. It's not often that we can't protect the house, but once in a while there is a situation where it's like, it'll be the worst thing in the world if we sold the house that had, 200,000
Yeah.
equity in it and moved into a more affordable place.
Oh my God.
So
We pursue happiness.
yeah. So we'd want to look at all that stuff first, focusing on the resources to write the cash flow as quickly as possible. And then once we did that, we could take a step back and say, okay, how deep in this muck are we with this debt? We don't have to make a panic decision on that. Once we can fix the cash flow and we can, take care of the wolves that are at the door, then we have some time to put together a plan and a strategy for, okay, how do we save the house if that's the priority? How do we save the vehicle if that's the priority? How do we save the marriage? If that's what hopefully our priority is. And then we can take the time to build a plan to deal with the debt, whether that's maybe looking at a bankruptcy, maybe looking at negotiating the debt, potentially looking at a credit counseling plan, even a Dave Ramsey type strategy, beans and rice in your way out of it. It's a great strategy for a certain segment of the population.
Yeah.
But it's also a horrible strategy for
Right.
other segments. I get people all the time that are like, I don't want to beans and rice my way out of this. And honestly, I don't even think I can.
Right.
We've
Okay.
tried it. It didn't work for us. And that's fine. It works for some people, but it doesn't work for everybody. So
Yeah. I don't think it would
that
work. I don't think it would work for you, and I don't think it would work for me.
Well, no, and I'm in a situation, and like a lot of my clients, I've got kids that range from junior high into high school, and here's my philosophy on it: you only get one go on this world, right?
Exactly.
And I look at this, and so if I was in a bad situation right now, and I read Financial Peace University, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna beans and rice my way out of this right now, and what would I be looking at? Again, not to say it's right, not to say it's wrong, but what I'd be looking at is I would have all of this sacrifice in the last few years that I get with my kids,
Right.
because they say 80 to 90% of the time that you will spend with your kids in your life is 18 years and younger.
Yeah. That's true.
Once they're 18, you don't see them that much anymore. And if you're a parent and you've got, kids that are 10 years old, 11 years old, my oldest son is 19, my middle son is 16, and you start going like, oh my God, I only have them,
Right.
for a very short amount of time. And it's like, do I want to spend that time saying, hey, we're not doing anything, everything's nailed down, you sit in your room and watch Netflix? Oh, never mind, I canceled Netflix, I
Right.
saved that $14.
It's
Right?
19 now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, whatever it is.
I,
Now, I'm not arguing that's wrong or that's right. I'm just saying that's not right for me. I'm not going to do that to my kids if I'm in that situation.
well, and so one of the things I've always focused on over the many years is the consequences of debt and the depression that it causes. So depression leads to the inability to make a plan, follow through, make decisions, everything else. And your depression is oftentimes caused by your debt. And when you are in debt, one of the things that my sample consumer there was suffering from was everything's broken, right? I got no opportunity. I can't
Yeah.
be inspired to find anything. It's like, Damon, when people come to you and all they need is an extra $1,000 or $2,000 a month. And you and I have talked many times about that is right at your fingertips, most likely, with just doing some side hustle stuff. But for whatever reason, they're just not mentally prepared or able to make that leap.
Yeah. Well, I think they're just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And if you can break that down and unpack it for them and show them, okay, look, this is not going to be the end of the world. And a lot of times it's just simple. Again, it's I keep going back to it because I think it's fun. Shooting the hostage, not shooting the hostage is not fun, but shooting the hostage, because if somebody comes to me and they're just overwhelmed, they're stressed out, they can't sleep at night, they don't have enough dollars to go around, they got more money going out than they got going in, and I'm looking at their situation and they've got $100,000 in credit card debt, and I'm looking at that going, you know what? If we let that go,
Yeah.
or some of it anyway, that would free up potentially $3,000 a month instantly.
Yeah.
So if I could wave a magic wand and take this 100 grand and set it over here, all of a sudden, if that's now gone, the stress is gone. Because wait a minute, I've got an extra $3,000. We can pay all of our bills. We can put, $750 a month in savings. We can turn back on our 401k contributions. And now we can actually move forward in life with this plan. Now, we still have all this debt over here that we have to figure. That's the broken arm. But now we can take a breath. We can sleep at night. We say, okay, cash flow wise, we're okay. We're not worried about falling behind on the mortgage anymore. We're not worried about falling behind on the car. Now I can breathe, and now I can take a step back and say, okay, that's awesome. Now, how do I deal with this $100,000? It could be as simple as a Chapter 7 bankruptcy wipes it out, and now you've got this awesome life with this extra $3,000 that now we have enough money to go around and put together your dream budget where money's going into investments every month, money's going into savings every month. My bills are paid a month ahead. I have an emergency fund.
And you'll be a millionaire.
Yeah, that could happen immediately. Now, or maybe bankruptcy is not on the table, but there's other options that we have. We can, look at settlement or paying it off in a more traditional way or getting a side hustle. There's a lot of options that we can deal with, but we have to separate that debt from everything else so you can see what your life is like without all of that debt. And then we can deal with that debt separately.
Well, here's a reality. So when people come to you and you help them develop a plan, their fear shrinks. Knowledge is power, truly is.
It shrinks on the first phone call. I get that feedback all the time. Like, I'm so glad I talked to you. I feel better already. We haven't done anything, but I feel better just knowing these couple options that you ran through. And, I don't want to say it's my personality, but I'm, other than when I first said hello on the phone call and you said I sound like Eeyore or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not a doom and gloom guy. I'm actually pretty upbeat, like, oh, hey, we can solve this. Boom, 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 boom. This is how we do it.
Right.
And it makes people feel like, oh my gosh, there is a solution. I can see the light, and it gives them some hope. Like, okay, we're going to work towards this goal. That makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, so let's take the examples of somebody comes to you and they talk to you, and whatever their situation, you guys come to the same determination that, maybe bankruptcy is the right thing for me. So they are eligible for a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. They file in less than 120 days. Their debt is discharged. In less than a year, their credit is fully rebuilt. They got a good credit score again. And so it's taken a little over a year to solve the situation and move better financially. Or you can limp along for the next 5 years, not saving, not putting anything in retirement, feeling like crap, and not taking action. Which one's a better approach?
Well, the second one doesn't require you to shoot the hostage. So
everybody starves to death. That's the problem.
Yeah, everybody's going to die. So, well, and again, everybody's different. Everybody's in a different situation because there's going to be sacrifice no matter what. Whether you shoot the hostage or you shoot everybody, there's going to be some sacrifice, and it's up to you. It's your life, it's your money, it's your credit. So it's up to you to decide what sacrifices you want to make. My job is to lay those sacrifices out for you and show you what your life would look like over the next few years based on the different choices you make with the options that you have available. That's my job. I'm not here to tell you what you have to do. I'll give you my opinion for sure. But at the end of the day, my job is to lay out the options and give you that roadmap to say, boom, if you want to do this, your life looks like this. If you want to do this, it looks like this, or it looks like this. And then you go through that and then decide, okay, what do I want to do? How do I want my life to be a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now? And most people don't say, I want to keep this struggle 5 years from now.
Yeah, I want to be happy, damn it.
They say, I want to get off this treadmill that I'm on. Show me the way to do it.
I want to be successful.
And once you see the way to do it, the stuff is a lot less scary. All the stuff that you were worried about tends to be not scary anymore at all because I can throw back the curtain and be like, it's just a a little person behind a door screaming into a megaphone. It's
Right.
not the Wizard of Oz.
I don't know why this just popped back in my head, but I remember talking to a Baptist preacher years ago, and he was having financial problems, and he was telling me, I can't go bankrupt. And I said to him, then why do so many churches go bankrupt every year? How can it be bad for you, but okay for them? Let's work through the facts and reality, and not just make that decision based upon fear and assumptions. And that's why you should talk to Damon. Damn it. I I get really frustrated. I'm very passionate about the fact that people should talk to you because they need to make well-informed decisions and stop screwing their futures. I mean, I I'm old enough now and retired that I've watched friends, people I've known who just come up on retirement and they can't stop working. They got to work at McDonald's or Walmart or something else, and they can't live the life they want now. And it's simply because they didn't shoot the effing hostage then.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna have to tell my buddy to listen to this podcast. He'd be proud.
I guess it's Casey.
Hey, I wasn't gonna out him on the show, bro.
Well, how many Marines are named Casey?
I don't know, but I don't want to be giving up his state secrets.
Oh shit. I just Googled it. It's not a state secret. Wonder what happens. Hold on. Talk for a second, will you? I gotta check something out.
Well, we can always edit this part in post. You can just clip it.
No. That requires effort in editing. I'm not doing that.
You're looking up the actual strategy?
I'm typing into ChatGPT, what happens if I shoot the hostage?
They don't teach it at Quantico. You can't do that on the U.S. soil, but other countries, different rules of engagement.
Yeah. Let's see. La-ti-da.
Usually what happens when you shoot the hostage is the person that was holding the hostage becomes so surprised and paralyzed, they don't know what to do and all their leverage is gone, and now you can take him out. Saving the rest of them.
All right, well, I got my answer. Thank you for stalling there for a minute. ChatGPT says, Damon's right.
That's what it says? Damon's right?
Damon's right.
I put that on the website. ChatGPT says Damon's right, so call me.
Well, actually, Damon. It's not Damon's right. It's Casey's right.
I stole it from Casey, made it my own until you outed him.
Well, actually, what ChatGPT says, AI should just do this damn podcast for us because the conclusion is, if you're feeling overwhelmed, reach out for support. Which is what we said about calling you.
Yeah. Well,
thank you.
Be careful what you wish for, because pretty soon AI may be doing this podcast for us.
Well, you never know.
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually thought about creating an AI agent to help people with debt problems. Now that I'm retired, I got spare time. And I actually spent a few days working through that and developing it and doing some programming. But the one thing you can never get past is, as you said, everybody's situation is different. And that's why they have to talk to you. That's why people used to have to talk to me. Every situation is like a fingerprint. It's all different.
Yep.
All right. On that note, Damon, I will see ya.
Peace.